On the evening of May 3, 2007, a quiet holiday in the Portuguese resort town of Praia da Luz turned into one of the most haunting mysteries of modern times when 3-year-old Madeleine McCann vanished without a trace. The McCann family, visiting from the UK, had spent the day enjoying the sun before settling their 3 children into bed at their holiday apartment. That evening, as was their routine, Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jerry, joined friends for dinner at a nearby restaurant within the resort complex, returning periodically to check on the children. But sometime after 9 p.m., when Kate walked back to the apartment, she was met with a chilling discovery. Madeleine's bed was empty, the window and shutters were open, and her daughter was gone. What followed was a frantic search that spread across the resort and surrounding areas, drawing in staff, guests, and eventually the local police. But from the very beginning, critical mistakes were made. The apartment was not properly secured, and people unknowingly contaminated the scene by walking in and out, leaving potential evidence compromised. Early witness accounts conflicted with each other, with some reporting a man seen carrying a child in pajamas that evening, while others described unfamiliar vehicles near the area. Within just a few hours, what could have been the crucial window to find Madeleine closed without answers. And so began a case that would not only dominate UK and international headlines, but also spark debates, documentaries, and endless theories about what really happened to the little girl who disappeared into the night. As the investigation unfolded, theories about Madeleine's disappearance quickly multiplied, ranging from plausible explanations to wild speculation, each one feeding the media storm that surrounded the case. The most widely accepted idea has always been that she was abducted by a stranger, with many pointing to witness reports of a man seen carrying a small child near the resort on the night she vanished. This theory gained weight when it was revealed that Praia da Luz had a history of burglary and attempted break-ins, suggesting that an opportunistic criminal might have taken advantage of an open window and an unlocked door. Yet, police also explored the possibility that Madeleine could have wandered off by herself, though this was largely dismissed given her age and the complex layout of the resort. Another controversial angle, one that generated immense media attention, was the suspicion directed toward Madeleine's own parents, a theory that became prominent after the Portuguese police shifted their focus onto Kate and Jerry McCann themselves. Authorities suggested that inconsistencies in their statements and traces detected by sniffer dogs inside the apartment hinted at the possibility of parental involvement, but the McCanns strongly denied all allegations, and no concrete evidence was ever produced to support such claims. Beyond these central theories, darker possibilities were also considered, including human trafficking rings that may have targeted the child for abduction, given the region's links to organized crime and the proximity to international borders. Some investigators argued that Madeleine may have been taken by a group rather than an individual, possibly moved out of the country within hours, which would explain why local searches yielded so little. Over time, suspects came and went, from tourists staying nearby to known offenders in the region, but none provided the breakthrough authorities were desperate to find. Each theory carried its own weight and flaws, and as the case dragged on without answers, the lines between evidence, speculation, and public opinion blurred, leaving the truth more elusive than ever. From the very beginning, the case was not only a police matter, but also a media spectacle, and this overwhelming coverage shaped how the world came to view Madeleine's disappearance. British tabloids seized on every detail, often amplifying rumors and speculations before facts were confirmed, while Portuguese outlets portrayed the case with their own dramatic angles, sometimes painting the McCanns in a deeply critical light. The constant press presence created pressure on the investigators, who were already struggling with a flawed response in the crucial early hours. The apartment where Madeleine had last been seen was never sealed off properly, allowing friends, neighbors, staff, and even reporters to walk through the scene, contaminating what little forensic evidence might have been present. The handling of witness statements was equally chaotic, with some accounts not recorded until weeks later, and others dismissed despite potentially important details. One notable failure was the delay in alerting border controls, which meant that if Madeleine had been taken out of the country, she could have been moved before authorities were even looking. The Portuguese police, inexperienced with such a high-profile international case, often clashed with British investigators who were later brought in, creating tension and inconsistencies in how leads were pursued. Instead of cooperation, there were moments of rivalry, with each side reluctant to fully share information. Meanwhile, the media coverage fueled public anger and suspicion, especially when the McCanns themselves became suspects in the eyes of the Portuguese authorities. Every development, every rumor, and every emotional photograph of the grieving parents was dissected for audiences worldwide, turning the tragedy into a kind of public drama. This frenzy meant that potential witnesses were often influenced by what they read in newspapers or saw on television, muddying the waters further. As months turned into years, the original investigation seemed riddled with missed opportunities, and the focus shifted less on solving the mystery and more on assigning blame, leaving Madeleine's fate obscured by controversy, speculation, and a trail of investigative errors that may never be undone. In the years that followed, the Madeleine McCann case refused to fade from public memory. And even more than a decade later, it continues to generate new developments and suspects that keep the mystery alive. In 2011, under mounting public and political pressure, the British government launched Operation Grange, a metropolitan police review of the case that cost millions of pounds and attempted to re-examine every piece of evidence. This renewed investigation brought fresh attention to potential suspects, including a German man named Christian Bruckner, a convicted sex offender who had lived in Portugal around the time of Madeleine's disappearance. In 2020, German prosecutors announced that they believed Bruckner was responsible, claiming to have circumstantial evidence linking him to the case, though they admitted there was no definitive proof of Madeleine's fate. This announcement reignited global headlines, with many seeing it as the most concrete lead in years. Yet doubts remain, since no physical evidence has ever tied him directly to Madeleine. Beyond Bruckner, investigators have continued to chase hundreds of other leads, from alleged sightings in different countries to claims made by psychics, none of which have yielded results. Advances in forensic technology have also been applied to the case, but so far, no breakthrough has emerged. Each new development brings a wave of hope, followed by frustration when the trail runs cold. Meanwhile, the McCann family has remained steadfast in their belief that Madeleine is still alive and could one day be found. Even as years pass and the chances grow slimmer, they continue to appeal for information, marking anniversaries with heartfelt statements, and their determination keeps public interest alive. What is striking about the case is how it has endured for so long, with every new suspect or theory fueling another round of headlines, debates, and documentaries, yet never moving closer to a definitive resolution. Nearly 2 decades later, the investigation remains one of the most expensive and extensive in history. And still, the central question persists: what really happened to Madeleine McCann on that fateful night in 2007? Nearly 2 decades have passed since Madeleine McCann vanished from that seaside apartment in Portugal. Yet the case remains as unsettling and unresolved as the night it began. For some, the lingering theories of stranger abduction or human trafficking seem the most plausible, while others remain haunted by the controversies surrounding the investigation itself and the suspicions that were once cast on her own parents. Each angle tells a story of missed chances, flawed decisions, and painful uncertainty. What makes this case so powerful is not only the tragedy of a child lost, but the way it has touched millions of people who never knew Madeleine yet feel an intimate connection to her story. She has become a symbol of innocence stolen, of the failures and struggles of international justice, and of the unrelenting hope that families hold on to even when answers seem impossible. The truth may still be out there, hidden in a piece of evidence overlooked, a memory unspoken, or in the silence of someone who knows more than they've admitted. Until then, the world continues to wait, to speculate, and to wonder what really happened on that warm evening in 2007. Perhaps one day the mystery will be solved, and justice will finally come for Madeleine. But until that moment, the case stands as a reminder of both the fragility of life and the enduring power of hope. What do you believe happened to Madeleine McCann? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below, and if you want to explore more of the world's darkest mysteries, don't forget to subscribe for the next story.